Alright, so I wanted to make this video because he asked me about these hadiths. Let's see what it is. Okay. So basically, he asked me there's a hadiths that are used from Sulaiman ibn Abdulwahhab, the brother of Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab. So I wanted to go in and talk about all these hadiths that he quoted to refute his brother, right? So I'm going to start with this one. I asked for three things for my nation, and he granted me two and refused one. I asked him not to let my nation be destroyed by enemies from outside the nation, and he granted me that. And I asked him not to let them be destroyed by fighting among themselves, but he refused that, right? So basically, the argument is that, and this is this hadith, if you want to know the exact reference, it's right here. Um, Basically, what it's saying is, look, if the Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab is correct, and everyone became a polytheist, then they are no longer part of the community of the Prophet. So the whole idea that they can be destroyed by enemies from outside, right? It says this was granted, right? But if they became polytheists, then they are enemies from outside the community, right? Because you're polytheists, you're not part of the Prophet's community anymore, right? That's definitely true, unless you want to make that argument, which I don't think you can. And it says that it was granted to him, right? Meaning that it's not possible. And then I asked them not to let be destroyed by fighting among themselves, right? And we see that that's definitely what the Wahhabis kind of did. They fought among the Muslims, right? That you'd have to believe that this was not actually granted to him. You know, if you were to agree with Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And there's other hadiths that he uses. This is another one. Um, Verily, the shaitan has lost all hopes that the worshippers would ever worship him in the peninsula of Arabia, right? And we're going to go over some other things about where the Wahhabis attacked, but this is pretty clear, right? And you know, if the Wahhabi theory of Tawheed was true, then you'd say that this is another one, right? That hadith that the Prophet was wrong on, essentially, right? And that's from Sahih Muslim. This is the reference. I believe there's a few more, so we're going to keep looking. I think I tried to prove that shaitan essentially means polytheism, where I quote a few verses. Do not, oh my Father, do not worship Satan. Indeed, Satan has ever been merciful. Right, so essentially the context is saying that by worshiping other gods, you're worshiping Satan, which is kind of what I'm trying to show, right? Shaitan, basically, because somebody might argue, oh, they mean shaitan specifically, right? But I think it's clear in some verses, right? I found her and her people prostrating the sun instead of Allah, and shaitan has made their deeds pleasing. And I think it's clear that the idea is that shaitan wants you to, if shaitan has lost all hopes that people in Arabia will worship him, I think it means all forms of polytheism. I think that's clear. Let me pause this now. I do want to show you a lot of the takfirs he makes, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, right? This is one of Durar al-Saniya history book. Um, you know, spread and appeared even in the country of the two holy mosques, right? And basically Arabia, right? And so remember the hadith says that he has lost all hope that they will appear in Arabia. But as you can see here, it's pretty clear that he takfirs the people of Arabia. I think these are some of the many places he takfirs, right? Basra, which I believe is in Iraq, right? They're all in polytheism, right? Two holy mosques, right? And then we can find so much information on this, right? And other parts of my, I'll show you other parts. Hijaz, right? Deny the resurrection, whatever. You see, Hijaz is part of Arabia, for those who don't know. Um, so let's keep going. Alright, so this is another hadith that he uses. The thing I fear most for you is the lesser polytheism showing off, right? Not the greater polytheism. And that's a sign that, the idea that the majority of the Muslims, which I kind of just showed you bit of what he did, right? All the takfir he made of people in entire countries. And we're going to see more proof of this later in the video. But if he's correct, then why is the Prophet only fear for us the lesser shirk? Right? I think there's another hadith that expands on this. Uh, we'll keep going. All right. Let me pause it for a second. I do want to mention more countries that they takfir, just to show you how many people, right? The people of Yemen, Tihama, Al Haramain, right? These are the Haramain is in Arabia. This is Yemen, Levant. That's all of Syria and Lebanon, right? Palestine, Iraq. These are all these people, right? And they received our call, and we will takfir them and fight them, right? This is not fake translation. This is exactly what it says. This is their own book. And so, they essentially takfir all these people. This is pretty much everyone, right? If we estimate that people did not receive our call, right, we invite them to Islam, then we call. Basically, the idea is that they're like prophets, and they're resetting. Okay, everyone's not Muslim. We're gonna, you know, give them our dawah, and if they reject it, we can kill them. That's their whole belief. This is the people who run Salafism. It passed down from them. That's just a historical fact. You know, Anybody who thinks there's no association between this and Salafism now just doesn't understand history. The chain of events, Al Saud and everything. These are the same group of people. The lineage, in a way, right, kind of was passed down from this group, and they became their own little country and stuff. And eventually, they started promoting the Salafi movement, right? I mean, I explained this in my book pretty clearly. If you read the whole thing, you can see that the chain of, right, how it's passed down. It's impossible to say, oh, we don't agree with them. It's like, yeah, but your whole movement comes from them. And he mentions if you doubt that they're kuffar, right? If you say these people are not kuffar, then you are one of them, right? You're nullifying your Islam. They're extreme in that sense, right? And so basically, he says like the Turkish state, right? Essentially all of them. And if you do not takfir them, he says, then he's an infidel like them. He who does not declare the policies to be a polytheist does not believe in the Quran, right? So he's saying anybody who does, everybody of that time, basically. You saw all the countries. If you don't takfir them, you're a kafir too. I mean, do you really agree with that? Let me pause it. So remember, they do come from Najd, right? And I'll go into that hadith. Why not? Right. So it says here, this is in Bukhari. He says, blessings to Sham and Yemen. And they said, what about Najd? And he says, well, I can't ask for blessings for Najd because that is a place of earthquakes and, shaitan. Right? And the evidence, there's this delusional idea that the Najd is not what's Najd today, which we all know it is, but the Salafis try to deny it because they're trying to get away from Muhammad ibn abdulwahhab, right? But even his own brother said that it was Najd. But let's go in here. Right, there's another hadith. He mentions the people of Iraq and the people of Najd, right? And my argument, I believe what I used, he said, oh yeah, because they say Iraq, Najd is in Iraq, but he makes a clear distinction between Iraq and Najd here, the Prophet. So that means when he's using the word Najd, it probably doesn't mean a place in Iraq, because in this hadith here, he distinguishes both places, right? And then there's another one. He sent an expedition to Najd. This is during the Prophet's time period. And we know that the Prophet did not send, there's no fight, there's no war in Iraq during the time of the Prophet. But there is a war against people in Arabia, places in Najd. That is a clear evidence that Najd was in Arabia. And you can keep going here. I took part in a ghazwa towards Najd, right? That's when we fought, along with the Prophet. This is the same Najd, right? This is in Arabia. He did not fight in Iraq, right? Right, and it says here at the time it was not a Muslim country. Iraq, right? So, you get the point. And some people from Najd came to him, right, and said, "Where is Hajj?" I forgot what my point was with that one. That's a good point I made. Okay, so at the time, Iraq was not a Muslim country. That's in the hadith that I just showed you prior. And then this one says, why would somebody from Najd ask where is Hajj if Najd isn't Iraq and it's not a Muslim country? Why is there a Muslim there asking about Hajj, right? And even Ibn Taymiyyah himself, right? This is a book he wrote. He says Musaylima was a false prophet. Uh, and he talks about how he's from the east, right? And the east is, let's look. Did he say the word Najd here? Let me see. Alright, yeah. So this is the hadith we talked about earlier, where it says Najd is where the horn of Satan will arise, right? And Ibn Taymiyyah does clarify that it's from the east, right? East Bahrain and not from Iraq, right? So, and here's another one. This is an important hadith. I did want to go over more hadiths that the prophets. Unfortunately, I didn't put them all in one spot, so I had to kind of go through a bit. But basically, this is another hadith. The thing I fear most for my nation is associating with others Allah, right? I did not say that they will worship the sun or the moon or idols, but deeds done for the sake of anyone other than Allah. So as you can see, and I think this applies to Salafis a lot, where they kind of have this fake, they have this fake persona relating to their religion, right? That's the shirk the Prophet feared, not the one that they claim everyone else has, right? Really, it's like the self-righteousness of religion, the people who think they're better than everyone, right? That is the fear the Prophet had, right? And you cannot deny his fear. You can't say that Muhammad ibn Abdulwahhab knew better than the Prophet, and the Prophet's fear was unwarranted, right? Because that's basically what you have to claim. And this is another version in Bukhari as well, and these are the references here down here. I'm not afraid concerned that you associate anything with other than Allah, but I'm afraid that you will be vying with another for the possession of the treasure of the earth, right? So that's more of a fear he had, right? That we will, rather than us returning to polytheism. So that kind of proves that, for the most part, we would assume he would know best, right? So that kind of is good evidence against the idea that everyone was on polytheism. And there's more. There's another hadith. There's fitna for every ummah. The fitna for my ummah is wealth, right? And that's actually what's happening in like the parts that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab took over. They're all, focused on wealth, right? So that's the fitna in a sense. It's the irony is that they're the one claiming that the trials are related to polytheism, but in reality, the Prophet's fear was not polytheism for his ummah, but it was wealth, and that we would fight, as it says here, for the treasures of the earth. And that's exactly what's happening. A lot of that's happening in Arabia, right, where they're, maybe not fighting. Well, they are actually sending, proxy wars. So that's true. And they have wealth, as we know. That's what they're known for. And then, there's a lot more content in this book, but I wanted to just go over that. Specifically, you asked about the hadiths, so I do give you these references here.